Hi guys, it's Amy and I am finally doing another vlog. I can't believe how long it's been. I feel a little bit rusty, so bear with me. But I'm really excited about this video because we are reading some really good books and getting into the fall season. I kind of already have been with my reads, but I live in Florida, so it's still pretty hot here. But I am going to be bringing you some different things to get us into the fall mood. But in this video, we are going to be reading some dark academia and some Gothic literature. So I am really excited about this. And I keep looking at what's in front of me because I've already started this first book and I'm really enjoying it so far. But that is Babble by R.F. Kuang. This is going to be our dark academia book. I thankfully got it in Libby and I've been listening to it on my phone. I am on chapter 3. I'm like a little over 2 hours in, about 10%. I've gotten kind of the introduction and everything, and it's been really good so far. I feel like this is going to be really great. And I also got it through Libby on my Kindle, so I can read at night. I don't like reading like a bigger physical book at night just because it's like a little bit bulkier. It's just easier to hold the Kindle. I don't want to listen to an audiobook at night because if I fall asleep, I'm going to lose my place. So we've got it in every possible form. So we are definitely going to get through this, hopefully this week. And then our Gothic book is going to be Frankenstein, and this is the 1818 like original text version. I probably will be reading on my Kindle and listening as well. I have wanted to read like more Gothic literature this fall. I read The Picture of Dorian Gray and some other things that had very Gothic tones but are more modern books, but I wanted to get more classics in. I know this is very beloved and I just don't know how I'm going to gel with it, so we will see how that goes. But again, with Babble, I am on chapter 3. I've kind of gotten the beginnings of like what the experience is for our main character. So basically this is about a boy named Robin, and Robin is from China, and he was taken as a young boy when he lost his family to England and adopted as a ward by this rich man. And he basically wants him to become a student of translation, being able to translate Chinese and Mandarin and English. So the goal is for him to become a student at Oxford so that he can get all the credentials and everything. So far, the environment of this time period, it's kind of like the Victorian period, later Victorian period, and it's definitely filled with racism. And I've already learned some things that were very interesting. R.F. Kuang is bringing in some references from real life, and it's been very interesting. This is actually my first R.F. Kuang book, and so far I'm really enjoying the writing style, but I don't know where it's going to go, but I feel like it's going to be really good. I have a really good feeling about this book. Like, I just feel like I'm gelling with it really well so far, and I'm really enjoying the audiobook. I feel like the narrator is a really good fit for the style of writing and capturing the time period that this is written in. And it's supposed to be a fictional version of Oxford. There are some like fantastical elements that are hinted about. So it's fictionalized, but there is some truth that this is based on. So I'm really, really excited to see where this goes. But this is my first vlog in this house. If you don't know, I moved over the summer and we are still kind of like getting settled in. Like every room is pretty much like there's furniture set and that sort of thing, but like as far as like decor and just kind of like odds and ends, there's still some random boxes and things kind of strewn about, so I apologize for the mess that you might see. But currently I'm in my bedroom and thankfully have a large window to get some light. Hopefully it looks all right. You know, it's like when you move to a new house, it's like trying to figure out, okay, this was in this place before, but I don't have that now, so what do I do with it? And it's just kind of that sort of thing. So it's not completely settled, but we definitely are more settled than we were even like a couple of weeks ago. I am excited to show you a little bit of the house and kind of like give you the feel of where I am right now. But I'm excited about some of the things that we're going to do in this vlog. I have my pumpkin cookie recipe that I make every year. These are gluten-free, so if that is something you're concerned about, just know that this is gluten-free safe, this recipe. But I also will show you like my daily like pumpkin spiced iced coffee that I make. So we've got some like fall treats that we can work in. I don't know if I will get to those today. Definitely not the coffee. I have some chores around the house to do, but that is when I am listening to my audiobooks, is when I am doing chores. Today is Tuesday. I'm hoping to finish by Friday, so I'm definitely excited to see what all we can get up to. And I might make some chicken soup as well. I feel like that's a fall thing to do. So I just kind of have to pace things out just because of my energy levels dealing with chronic illness. And so we will see how we kind of pace things out. I think maybe tomorrow will be pumpkin cookies, but we'll see. So I am going to sort some laundry. I know that's super exciting, but I am going to sort some laundry and maybe do some other odd things, and then I will check in with you guys. I am in the kitchen now, and I'm realizing I haven't really shown you guys different parts of the house. It's a little bit messy in here. I'm needing to do some dishes, so I came in here, but yeah, this is our kitchen. Thankfully it's bigger, so it's gonna be easier to film in here. So kitchen table. I am gonna do some dishes, and I'm still listening to the book. I'll give you an update soon. Hi, I have finished the dishes and I'm sitting down for a minute. I have been struggling with energy today, trying to get things done. I kind of like lay down for a little bit earlier and was listening and fell asleep. I think I said earlier that I just can't listen to audiobooks laying down, but I'm in the living room now. This is probably the least put together room. There's like all these kind of boxes. I haven't done our shelf. The rug back here I plan to get rid of. The piano we are not keeping. I do have a bookshelf over here. I was unpacking books that were in the living room in our old place and needed to put them on the shelf. Here is our TV and our new TV console. There's just more boxes and stuff to go to the thrift store, donations. Yeah, so this is definitely like a working room, and I don't know if you saw the front door over here. So it's like you walk in and you're just kind of walking into this slightly chaotic room, but yeah, so just sitting down for a minute, and I have an update for you. I am like 25% into the book, so about 5.5 hours. It's a 22-hour audiobook. I just finished chapter 7. I'm about to start chapter 8, and it has just been fascinating so far. Like, I knew what the story was about, but thankfully I haven't gotten any like spoilers or anything. It really has been interesting. Like, I'm at the part where he is going to Oxford, which that's not a spoiler. That's a given thing. He is there and like kind of acclimating, and it's just really interesting seeing the environment, how much like racism is like built into the system. It's interesting, like the kind of found family that he develops. He's just getting started, but there's already a lot going on. There are some really unexpected things that are happening that I'm not going to give away. It's just been really good so far. I am really impressed by the writing. You feel like you're in this very prestigious academic environment, but the language is still easy to follow. If I can listen to it with audiobook and not get lost, to me that that is like pretty like easy language to follow. It's just how I roll with audiobooks. If it's more complex within like especially like magic systems and things like that, which I love reading as a physical book like that, but I can get lost in some of those more intricate details sometimes. This is still pretty detailed, but it's very much like language based. That's just something that's easier for me to wrap my head around, I guess. I am encouraged by the amount of progress I've made on the book. I don't want to rush it. I want to enjoy it, but I am trying to get it done within this certain time period to get this vlog out to you guys. So yeah, being at 25%, I feel good about where we're at. I feel like this is a good first day, like getting back into the vlog stuff. Hopefully you're not bored by the chores, but it's like, I wanted to feel like we're just like hanging out and you're here with me at the house and we are just, you know, chatting as we're going about everyday life. So I am going to keep reading, and I will, if I don't check in with you guys tonight, I will check in with you tomorrow. Hi guys, it is a new day and I've been up for a little while. I've been kind of getting things together and kind of woke up with a migraine, so I was dealing with that. But we are going to be doing some baking in a minute, but I thought I would show you my pumpkin spice iced coffee recipe. It's super simple, it's nothing really fancy, but I feel like it's an easier way to like get the pumpkin spice flavor into your everyday. So I am going to cut to that. So these are the ingredients that you're going to need, and I have a mug and a glass that I'm going to put it in. I just use any regular ground coffee and of course your pumpkin pie spice. I use 2 tablespoons of honey, and then I fill to the top with almond milk. It is unsweetened and vanilla. So I just brew my coffee in my Keurig with a reusable K-cup. I do a 6-ounce shot of coffee, and I am just letting that brew here. So I fill my glass with ice, and then I mix in my honey and my pumpkin spice in the hot coffee before I pour it into the glass. So I'm gonna mix that together. I do, again, 2 tablespoons of honey, and then I am going to pour that into the ice glass, and then I'm going to fill the glass to the top with milk and then stir together. And that's pretty much it, and it is absolutely delicious. All right, we are back, and like I said, we are going to be doing some baking. Of course, I'm in my kitchen, and I am just kind of I'm wearing my band book shirt, but just wearing clothes that I don't mind getting a little bit messy. I might throw my apron on, but I am going to walk through the ingredients you need and the recipe. This is one that I've tweaked for myself. I don't even remember where I originally got the kind of base recipe, but I've like tweaked it over time. So let's take a look at this. So I've got all of my ingredients here. So you need gluten-free flour. I recommend King Arthur's measure for measure flour for just like a good all-purpose gluten-free flour. And then you're going to need baking soda, baking powder, and of course your pumpkin pie spice, and then cinnamon as well. And it's like, oh, well, cinnamon's already in that. Just trust me. Just trust me. And then you're going to need some just regular table salt. And then I have softened butter on my recipe, but I like to just use vegetable shortening. My husband is lactose intolerant, so that is a good alternative for people who can't eat dairy or are vegan. And then, of course, we have our pumpkin puree. This is not like with like pumpkin pie, anything added to it. It's just 100% plain pumpkin. And then we have 1 egg. This is just so I can crack it in here and not get shell and everything. You can use granulated sugar. I'm going to use brown sugar today. So I have granulated sugar, but I'm just adding a little bit of moisture with the brown sugar today. I just like the flavor. And then you're going to need some vanilla extract. And then as a topper, which I'll explain later, you're going to want powdered sugar or confectionate sugar. Okay, so that is everything, and I will definitely post the recipe in the description. So if you want to use that, you can. And again, this is gluten-free and it's dairy-free. It's not totally vegan with the egg, but you can use other egg substitutes. I'm not going to get into that. This is all the ingredients that you need, and I am using my KitchenAid mixer. Yeah, this just is helpful for like not having to like hand mix everything or use like the electric beater or whatever. Even that will like wear me out. So we've got this trusty thing. But let's get into this recipe. So I just realized that I like messed up a little bit and I didn't just cream the shortening and sugar together. I'm like listening to the book, cooking, and trying to film at the same time, and that's new for me, but we're going to just keep playing along. But yeah, if you do this, make sure that you just follow the instructions that I put in the description. now that I am sufficiently covered in powdered sugar, I'm letting some of the cookies bake and then I will do the rest of the batter. But I thought I would give you an update on Babble, and I am like 40% in, 47, sorry, percent in. So I'm almost halfway. I'm on chapter 15, and there have been a lot of different reveals that definitely have been interesting, and it just like slowly has been getting darker and darker, and I don't want to give anything away. It's just like seeing how this corrupt education system, corrupt government of Britain is like taking advantage of people, how they view the poor and lower class, how they view people from different countries and cultures. It's just kind of mind-boggling. I think that's where I have trouble with like people saying like, oh, well, fantasy, even just fiction in general, is not beneficial. And I just don't see how people can think that way, because it's all based on, you know, real life, even if it is like fantastical. Even in a fantasy book, put into the situations with people who are experiencing it, it's always something that you need to remember, and it makes you want to behave differently. It makes you want to be a part of change right now. And this has definitely been a powerful book. And even though it is like mysterious and there's an entertaining aspect to it, it's also very important and educational, even as a fictional story. You know, these books are using real life scenarios and incorporating themes that reflect real life, and especially in this like historical period, it's just so like almost like visceral, because you're put in that time period and it's your present experience, and it's just been so good. Like, I see what the hype is about this book. I've kind of like put off like reading it because it was so hyped, and sometimes I feel like things can be overhyped, and I'm only, like I said, like almost halfway through, but the writing has just really impressed me. And something I noticed when I was reading, like immersion reading, I tried reading just the ebook or just physically, and I found that I really was missing the audiobook. I feel like the audiobook is like helping me be even more present in it, so I would definitely recommend the audiobook. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and I even feel like tentative to say enjoy, because it is so like it's culturally relevant even right now. And I'm not going to get into all of why, but if you've read the book or if you know anything about the book, then you probably know what I'm talking about. It's interesting where it's like it's been presented as a fantasy story and there is a magical element to it, but I feel like it's just a portion of the book. It's not like the main feature, but is a driving factor for the motivations of the characters and this government system and Oxford itself. I have just been having an incredible experience with this book, but I am going to check on the cookies and then keep listening and finish up baking the rest of the cookie dough. We finished with the cookies and they turned out really good despite my mess up. I will show you how they turned out. They are like a crinkle cookie with like rolling them in the tons of powdered sugar. These are still like cooling off. Definitely recommend like a big cutting board or putting some kind of like wax paper or something down just to kind of contain the powdered sugar mess. But yes, they are very delicious and filled the house with pumpkin smells, and it happens to be October 1st when I'm filming this, so it is like the perfect kind of fall activity to kind of start October. So yes, I am very happy. It is the first pumpkin cookie of the season. I will make these and they'll just kind of be like our periodic like treat dessert type thing for this kind of fall season. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and again, the recipe will be in the description. But for a book update, I am about, I think 55% of the way through. Yes, 55%. I'm on chapter 17. I just started 17, and it is definitely at a tension-filled place in the book. I don't want to give anything away, but like there is just a lot of tense things happening, and things can go even worse, and I'm like kind of nervous about where it's gonna go. But it's still been a really good story. So I have some other kind of chores and organization to do around the house, and I might show you some of that as well. And then I will check in with you later. So I am kind of wrapping things up for the day. I am at 72% in the book. I'm on chapter 22, like halfway through chapter 22. And it has just been wild and crazy. Like, just, it's such a nuanced situation, and I'm really enjoying it though. It's just been such a compelling story, but it's been suspenseful, it's been heartbreaking, and definitely a lot of tension. But yeah, I'm at a really interesting point. It feels like maybe there's some safety, but I just am waiting for it to be ripped away at the same time. I am kind of, like I said, wrapping things up for the day. It's almost 5 now, so I might read a little bit more tonight. So that's going to be it for today, and I will check in with you guys tomorrow. Hey guys, it is a new day, and you might hear my husband in the background shouting. I shut the door, but he took the day off to play this new video game that came out. He doesn't get a day off very often, so if you hear that, that is what that is, but I'm going to try to film. I didn't think about it like overlapping this week. Like I said, it is a new day, and I am about 77% through Babel, and oh my god, like some stuff like just happened as I was listening, but even just like the last couple of chapters have just been so, oh my god, so like tense and heartbreaking and just filled with all the things. I might look like a drowned rat. I just got out of the shower. I'm not sure what all I'm going to get up to today. I have kind of an upset stomach. I am going to make some chicken soup in the crock pot. And I know soup is definitely a fall thing. I have been like wanting the soups and the fall treats and everything. So I'm going to get into that and let that cook during the day. And if I'm feeling better, we might run an errand or something, but we will see how that goes. But definitely going to be finishing up Babel today. Okay, chicken soup is done. I forgot to film shredding the chicken, and I haven't put the spinach in yet, but that's optional. You don't have to do that, but yeah, it turned out pretty good. So I just finished the book, as you saw in the last clip, and I am tired. I am devastated. I am trying to process everything, but this was such a good book. It was so good. It was not a perfect book, but it was very good, and I definitely see why it has the hype that it does. I think at the end of the video, I will do a full, rundown of my thoughts and everything, but I just wanted to say that I had finished it, and that means I'm going to start Frankenstein. We're gonna attempt to start Frankenstein. I have tried starting it a couple times, but it was late at night, and I just fell asleep reading it. I do have the ebook. I don't think it's the 1818 text. I've tried finding that on Libby and elsewhere, a free version of that, but I have not found that. So we shall see. But I do have the audiobook as well, so I might immersion read it, and that might help my experience with it. This just being I believe, a Victorian period language. I know that's going to be slightly more difficult to follow. You know, I can like read older books and everything, but I know sometimes it can be more difficult. I might film myself reading a little bit tonight. I might not. If I don't, then this is kind of the end of the day. Our first soup of the season, first pumpkin cookies of the season, first books of the season, and this is probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year. But like I said, I will talk about it later, and I will see you guys later. Hello. So it is a new day. It is Friday. It's a little after 10 in the morning. I've had breakfast, put laundry on, done a few things, but I am here on the couch and getting cozy. And I have started Frankenstein. I decided that because I had the 1818 text, just not an audiobook or ebook, that I am going to read it physically. Me starting it last night, I actually was kind of into it, so I was kind of surprised. I wasn't sure about like the language in the book, but it was fairly easy to read. It didn't really feel like off-putting or anything. This has like kind of some bonus stuff in here. I started reading the introduction that is several pages long, and it was just giving like this whole backstory of Mary Shelley and everything, which is interesting to a point. It just started getting like, oh, she was friends with this person for this period of time, and they may have had an influence on this sort of like science in the book. And it was just getting very like overly detailed. And I was like, I can't stand this anymore. I kind of skipped ahead and just got into the actual narration, and so far it's been really good. I'm going to kind of lock in and be cozy. I've got my coffee and my giant water bottle. I carry this around like all day long, and it's definitely like been beat up, like the handle's broken and everything, but it keeps me drinking my water through the day. So got that on the couch being cozy, and yeah, we're just gonna get into this. I'm excited to see what I think of it and my experience with it. So yeah. I am struggling to stay awake, you guys. I have been trying to read and I keep dozing off. I even got up earlier and tried to just like move around and do some things, and it's not that the book is necessarily boring, it's just like, it's more so like telling me what's happening rather than showing me. I'm just waiting for it to like really take off. I'm trying. I'm trying. But I think I'm going to go check on the laundry, and then we'll see if we can get back into it. So I'm reading, and what I'm about to say might be considered a spoiler, but I feel like Frankenstein is such a popular story that, you know, it's a fairly well-known plot. But I expected when the monster was brought to life that it would be a much more like exciting and like climactic thing. But I'm basing that off of like movies and television that I've seen depicting Frankenstein. Honestly, it really is kind of like, it's kind of lackluster. It's just like, I collected the instruments of life around me that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already 1 in the morning, and rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out, when by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs. And that's kind of just, like, that's how it happens. And then he's kind of describing how it looks and everything, but, yeah, that was not what I was expecting. So, there is that. But, let's keep chugging along. So I did find on YouTube an audiobook version of the 1818 text, and it is really good. I will link it below. I bought this used, and whoever had it before me like kind of wrote in the margins, and I have no idea who owned it before, but it's kind of cool to like see somebody else's thoughts on what was happening in the book. I don't know, I just thought that was really cool. Thank goodness for delivery. I have wanted a fall candle, and they had these on DoorDash for Target. I have the hiccups for some reason. This is my second time having the hiccups today. I don't know why, but this is vanilla pumpkin, and it smells so good. And I'm gonna light it before we get into talking about the books. All right, a reading update. I am a decent way through, but not as far as I would have liked to be. I'm like 112 pages in. I believe this is like 190 pages. 191 pages. So I've got like this much left. It's like 4:45 in the afternoon. So my husband's gonna be home soon, and I want to be able to catch up with him. So I have just been struggling, like feeling tired today, and my stomach has been giving me some problems, and that kind of wears me out as well. So I've just been like trying to read, and it's not that the book isn't interesting, it's just how I feel physically, and I've just been tired, so I'll read and then I'll fall asleep. But I did find on YouTube an audiobook of the 1818 text, and it is from Classic Ghost Stories Podcast with Tony Walker. User handle is at Classic Ghost. I believe like Frankenstein would now be in the public domain, so I believe that this is okay. Yes, I just verified that Frankenstein is in the public domain, so it's okay to do this sort of thing. I don't know why the 1818 is, at least with my like library on Libby. I even looked at another audiobook app, LibriVox, right here, if you can see that. It is literally just like classics that are like kind of in the public domain and everything. Couldn't find it on there, but did find it on here, and this has a really good narrator, so I highly recommend. I will again link that down below, but it was really helping me like kind of get through the book and just kind of stay awake. And again, it's not that the book is boring. The language is like lofty and older English just because of the period that it's from, but the story is very interesting. And at this point, I've gotten to where you're getting some of the perspective of Frankenstein's monster. And again, and if you don't know, Frankenstein is not the monster. Frankenstein is the man who created the monster. Hearing the monster's perspective and what he has gone through, I haven't read all of it yet, but it is just so interesting and heartbreaking and moving. I knew that some of that was in there, that it's definitely going to be different from like the depictions you see in movies and TV, but this was just really incredible. And I know that there's a movie, Frankenstein, coming out. Guillermo del Toro's version of Frankenstein with like Oscar Isaacs, I believe is his name, and Jacob Elordi. I think those are the people that are in it. Mia Goth. And from the trailer that I've seen, it looks really like atmospheric and everything. I have heard that it's supposed to be one of like the closer to the book adaptations that has been made. So I'm really interested to see what that's going to be like. And that's kind of cool, like having read the book and then getting to experience that. It comes out fairly soon, I believe. So I don't know if my husband will watch that with me, but he's not like a horror person. And even though this isn't like horror in like maybe what we think of in like modern times, but this is definitely like horror in this like sort of suspenseful way, in this like kind of gothic, heartbreaking way, and you know, just weird happenings and things like that. I'm definitely interested to see the comparison, but I again have just a little bit more to read. I'm gonna try to keep reading for a little bit more, but I want to be able to finish it before the end of the video. I was hoping to finish it today for Friday, but I will have to film a little bit later and just get some more of the book in order to do that. So yeah, I will check in with you guys later and I will give you my updates and my thoughts when I finish Frankenstein. And then my husband and I watched Practical Magic that night. It was his first time watching. Here we were singing to This Kiss by Faith Hill. We were having a lot of fun. And this is one of my favorite parts, when they are dancing in the kitchen and having midnight margaritas. This was just the perfect kind of fall movie to kick off the season. Hello, it is a new day and I just got out of the shower. I'm on the couch with a blanket around me and I am close to finishing Frankenstein. And Victor Frankenstein, the doctor, is a horrible person. I do not like him. He wants you to like him, wants you to sympathize with him, but I do not. So I feel like I'm at this kind of climactic point in the book, but we shall see. I am going to finish the book and then I will check back in with you guys. Alright guys, we are at the end of the video and I'm going to give you my final thoughts on the books. I finished Frankenstein, but I'm going to talk about Babble first. I really enjoyed this book, even though it wrecked me, but in the best possible way. I'm not a big crier, but my goodness, like this was definitely one that breaks your heart and really like gets in the feels. But this was such an interesting book because of its historical context. Even though this is a dark academia fantasy, it being set in this like alternate version of like the 1830s, an alternate version of Oxford, I just thought it was a really great time period to explore. Having the magic kind of based in this like translation sort of magic was very interesting, and I feel like really was an interesting tool to use to talk about the topics of racism and colonialism and systemic oppression and just the different things that we were tackling in this book. I really appreciated how this book was making you think, but also making you feel at the same time. I feel like the language was really accessible in that way, where you are having to kind of think about this sort of almost metaphor that language is for the topics of colonialism and racism. And it's also you're experiencing these things through the character's first person experience, and you are definitely feeling for the characters. So it really is a book that like is engaging your mind, engaging your emotions, and I feel like that's what you would want from a book like this, where it's teaching me something, but it's also making me relate and empathize. And that's really what these books on topics like this are really trying to do. And I feel like Kwong did that really effectively. I feel like making the writing accessible, even in this kind of like prestigious and pretentious sort of academic environment, even though it had like academic language, it was still very accessible. And I feel like things were really well explained. And that makes me feel like this book, I think some people find it maybe intimidating, along with her other kind of academic book, Catabasis. But I feel like this really is an accessible way to explore like dark academia and these different important topics. Just the way that she makes it relatable through the characters was just really powerful to me. And speaking of the characters, looking just at our main character, Robin, he was such a realistic and very human character, and seeing him have to like survive this corrupt system that like claims to support him but is really exploiting him was such a heartbreaking journey. And just seeing the gradual realization that he has about his environment and the people around him, you just feel this safety and his world just kind of slowly break down. And it makes you feel unsafe as well, because you are in the shoes of that character, and as well as his sort of friend group that he has in this book. And it really was like such an insightful take on, it's like, okay, a person who is from another country that is in this sort of destitute situation where he is an orphan, and he's being, as his guardian is saying, elevated to this status where he's going to be able to be educated and be a part of this elite academic program and be a part of this elite world. The counter argument of that, of being that he is taken out of his, you know, cultural home and environment, even though he is an orphan, you know, he's taken to a strange place and he is having to learn a whole new language. There's a lot of stressors there. He's not getting the emotional support, and then being put into a system that doesn't really want him there to begin with and just exploiting him. I just really felt that Robin was such a relatable character, even if he was a different race from me, even if he had a different life experience from me. I still found his emotions and just seeing his sort of worldview and his idea of safety just break down. Like, it was just so moving, and I really, really loved how Kwong wrote these characters. I know I've kind of talked about the protagonist and his friends, but the antagonist characters, seeing the racism, the corruption, the greed that was there, was, it feels so unreal, but it's also seeing Kwong like build these arguments of their own beliefs and how they really believe that they are right in what they're doing, or how they're like willing to turn a blind eye to when they're being proven wrong. And like, I was just really blown away by the sort of like arguments of these social issues, of these topics of really good and evil being shown in the dialogue and with these characters. You know, we can talk about these things, but actually showing it through experience of characters really makes it that much more real and that much more moving. And even hearing the counter arguments from these antagonistic characters, or people who are part of the oppressors, I would say it was very eye-opening, because it's like, you know, have I thought that way? Have I acted that way? What can I do to be more empathetic? What can I do to help bring about change? because I feel like this, even though it's in this historical context, which I feel like helps you sort of like separate from it and look at it from an analytical perspective, it really does help you kind of step out of your environment, step into someone else's, and be like, okay, how are those things happening in my present day? And what can I do to fight against these things? I think that's another big part of the historical context that I appreciate, is that it puts you into an environment where there are issues that are similar to present day. It's just happening maybe in a different way with different people, and in this fantastical world, of course, but also there's still relevant topics for today. I know I've already said the Kwong made this really accessible, but just the use of the concept of like linguistics, using languages as this sort of metaphor and tool to explain like imperialism, really was just so fascinating to me. It was making me think of the concept in a different way, in a refreshing way, where it just, I feel like, deepens my understanding. And of course, it's really something that you're only going to be able to experience and understand by reading the book. And I think that makes it even more worth reading. You know, it was entertaining, but it was also heartbreaking, and it was also educational. And just being able to say that a book is all of those things, that it's creating this powerful experience, I think really says a lot about the book. I know I'm raving about this book, but it was not a perfect book for me. I feel like the last 25% kind of dragged for me. And I know it was for the impact of what was happening. I don't think it was just drama for drama's sake, but I do feel like it could have been a little more concise, but that's just my opinion. So I feel like it wasn't a perfect experience, but I still really think that this is a fantastic book. This is definitely a 4.5 for me. I think it's nearly perfect. I feel like just that last 25% was a little bit slow, but again, I see why, just for the impact. I definitely think that everyone needs to read this book. I know not everyone may enjoy it like I did, but I still think that it is worth reading because of the education that you can get from it, but I feel like maybe the fantasy element could lose some people, unfortunately. So again, I think just a really accessible kind of dark academia fantasy that still explores academia, but puts it in a language that I feel like a lot of people can relate to, and really relatable characters, even if they may not look or sound like you. So definitely recommend Babble. And of course, my other read was Frankenstein, and this was another really powerful story, but a very macabre story at the same time. It really was an interesting experience for me because I've heard, of course, that the book is different from the film adaptations. That's always true in some aspect. But honestly, I'm kind of like disappointed by the film adaptations because there's so much more depth in this story than is portrayed in the film and TV versions. This story is so much more dramatic and philosophical and emotional than you're going to see in film adaptations, but you still can get a really immersive experience. I think the language alone, but for me, like the immersion reading of listening and reading the physical really did bring it to life. And I really recommend the YouTube video that I was listening to for the audiobook. Again, that is a public domain story, so it is something that is okay to be on YouTube. But yeah, the voice acting was just done really well. It is, again, following the 1818 text. So getting down to it, everybody I think knows kind of at least the basis for this story. We have Dr. Victor Frankenstein and his monster. But the true monster in this story is Dr. Victor Frankenstein. As you are reading this book, as I was reading this book, I just grew to hate him more and more. And I don't want to give everything away. I want people to be able to have the experience of reading this and getting all of the goodness from it. But the just kind of themes of like wanting to play God and indulging in your own selfish desires and wanting to just do things without thinking about the consequences or ignoring the consequences was definitely a big thing with this story. It was also, I think, an interesting metaphor, not just for like, you know, the use of science and exploiting that. I think this could also very much be an exploration of family and sort of like emotional neglect and abuse and generational trauma. There's definitely a family drama that is happening in this story, but I think in Victor's family, but also the relationship between Victor Frankenstein and his monster, there is definitely like a lot of metaphorical stuff happening that I think could be related to like family trauma and things like that. So if that's something that you would like me to explore, maybe in another video, I could kind of break down Frankenstein, but I'm not going to do a whole deep dive about that right now. But that was something that I feel like was there in the story for me. That's just my opinion, but I think it would be really interesting to kind of do some more research and explore that. I am a person that enjoys doing research. I really enjoy learning how to do like research papers, and I was always better at doing those than like taking a test or something like that. So being able to go back and read classics like this, and this is my first time reading it, but reading this and like wanting to get that like classroom environment and like study and research and learn about the metaphors probably says that I'm a huge nerd, but I really enjoy that aspect about it. And I think just reading this, even in the couple days that I did, I felt like I was getting some of that experience just in my own mind and thinking about what was happening on the page, but I definitely would like to do more. So just looking a little bit more at the characters, I, again, absolutely hated Dr. Frankenstein. He was, again, very selfish, but very like self-pitying. He was very like, woe is me. He was just a coward emotionally. He did not want to own up just outright wrongs that he did. Within himself, he knew, but he would not admit that outwardly to other people. And it was like constantly wanting people to pity him and think that he was some kind of like tragic hero and that the monster is this great villain. But at the end of the day, it was very much Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein being the villain. And I just hated him more and more with each page. And it really was so interesting seeing the contrast between him and the monster, because you're calling him the monster or the creature, but seeing how he was created and then essentially abandoned and having to kind of like figure out life on his own, it really was sad. It was very tragic. And then as he becomes more intelligent in just knowledge of like everyday life, but also like an intelligent speaker, intelligent emotionally to his level of ability, it really was, he became this complex character that you really want to empathize with, even though he is, killing people. So I don't think I'm giving away saying anything like that. I feel like those are kind of known facts about the story, but I'm not getting into who, what, where, when, why. But it is definitely a factor of the story. So it's like he really kind of becomes what he despises. He despises the cruelty of humanity, and he kind of ends up becoming cruel himself, but in this sort of vengeful way, which isn't right, but it's also like you want him to have justice at the same time, because, he didn't ask to be brought into the world. He didn't ask to be abandoned. And, it's like he was put into this terrible situation. So it just felt like this child that you were wanting to like take in and help just because of his appearance, which everyone says is horrific and, obviously a monster, he's turned away. So it really is an emotional experience that you go through with the monster creature's perspective. This was also not a perfect book for me. I feel like it really was not well balanced in the writing, because I feel like there were times when the writing was a little bit dry, and then there were times when the writing was a bit overly dramatic. But I feel like the melodrama was definitely a lot from Dr. Frankenstein. Some of it was from the monster as well. It was just more of the language that was used, and I feel like it is, obviously more dated language, being from like the Victorian time period, but it was also just kind of over the top sometimes. The dryness definitely came from, it was like I'm just being told what's happening rather than being shown through experience of the characters. I just don't really relate to that as much. You can tell me about an experience and list it out chronologically, point one, this happened to this person, point two, this event took place, but I feel like that's just kind of a boring way to tell the story. And even though it's happening through letters, I feel like once we kind of got into the meat of the story, which was a letter as well, it was a recounting of what is happening with Dr. Frankenstein and the monster, it was more interesting. But there were still times when I found the writing to be a little bit dry. That could just be a language barrier, even though I found the language pretty accessible and easy to understand just for, the time period that it came from, it being a more dated version of English. But again, I still found it easy to read. But that's just my opinion, so take it or leave it. The story was really educational, it was very emotional, and it was very unsettling. You didn't quite know what was going to happen through like the bulk of the story, even though we kind of know the famous story of Frankenstein, but the movie portrayals were just so different that I really didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm glad that even though the story is so famous, that there was just the meat of it that wasn't necessarily given away. So I was still able to have this enjoyable, like, firsthand experience of learning what the true Frankenstein and monster story is. I'm really glad that I am able to say that I read this classic, and it really was not too arduous of a read. I, again, just deal with like chronic fatigue and things like that, so I get tired and so I'm like falling asleep when I'm reading and stuff like that, which is frustrating for me. But doing the immersion reading really does help me, and it may help you. I know it helps with like ADHD and things like that, but I think it really, for anyone, brings the story to life. And I definitely recommend the 1818 version just because there is just a lot of richness to this. I read a little bit of some later versions of the story, and I feel like it just cut out some of the detail, and it was just a little bit more concise, but I think this being as short as it is, it's worth just reading the original. I think I'm rating this 4 stars. Just because, again, some of the writing was a bit unbalanced as far as like tone and delivery, but I still really think that this was a great book and something that everybody should read. But that is going to be it, guys, for this reading vlog. I hope that you enjoyed this. I haven't done one of these in a while, so hopefully I wasn't too rusty at it, but I hope that you enjoyed kind of getting into these books, but kind of being cozy and doing some of the fall stuff with me. I know it was kind of more like casual and everything. I am just trying to give you a realistic sort of look at life, and, everything doesn't look like Instagram or what have you. Like, I'm in the transition of still moving into my house and trying to live life and enjoy the reading, enjoy the seasons, and I feel like that's relatable for a lot of people. So hopefully you enjoyed it and found it cozy and relatable, and that you enjoyed me kind of getting into these books and breaking them down. Definitely let me know what you thought of the books if you have read them. Let me know what you think about my opinions. And I am very much looking forward to talking with you in the comments. But that is going to be it for me today, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!